Hello guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing another film review, series review. Today we're going to be looking at the first two episodes of Ahsoka. This is just going to be a spoiler, kind of rambly review. I didn't really think this through too much. I recently watched it about an hour ago. I tweeted about it, and my tweet basically summarized all of my thoughts. I also wrote them down, but I'm going to kind of freeball it here and just kind of talk about stuff in general. And overall, I think that the show was good. It is definitely better than the Book of Boba Fett. It's better than Kenobi. And it is maybe better than Mandalorian Season 3 so far. Actually, I think in terms of production value, it is significantly better than The Mandalorian. But in terms of, like, do I care? I think they're about the same. And so I guess technically it is a better show in that sense, if those are my two metrics. But even though I like Ahsoka a lot, I'm not necessarily interested in the Rebels characters. And so I am more invested in the Mandalorian show. And so that pulls the Mandalorian show up a little bit for me. But it's definitely by far the best looking Star Wars show so far. So I guess I should talk about my history with this character. I met Ahsoka when I was like a 10-year-old. I watched the movie. I actually don't think I ever watched it in the movie theater. I don't think they released it in the movie theater. I just remember buying it. Realizing, hey, this is a new Star Wars thing that I haven't seen before. So I picked it up, I watched it, I thought it was fun, I enjoyed the little story that the movie was about, and then the show came out. And to me, the show was a very meaningful core experience of my life, because it was kind of, it happened early enough that I was still a child, but not late enough that but not so early that I wasn't conscious as an individual. And so it was kind of like the first time that I consumed media seriously. And also it was a really great bonding moment for me and my dad. I mean, to this day, he references the episode where Rex and Fives and Echo and all those characters are first interacting, right? Where, Rex talks about the shinies, and then he puts the blue blood on one of the characters' chest, right? He still references that to me every day. Well, not every day, but often. And it is a very important thing for me. Later on, I started watching Rebels. I never actually finished Clone Wars, and I still haven't finished it yet, even though I am definitely far enough into it to really just finish it off. But I just haven't gone around to it. And then I watched Rebels. I started watching it when it came out on Disney Plus, on Disney, on the show, on the channel. But then, I stopped having TV because my parents were like, well, there's no point in paying this if we have all these other things. And I don't remember if I ever finished watching Rebels. I think I didn't. However, I do know more or less the important bits of the story, even though I didn't experience them. And so, in general, I have very little attachment to Rebels characters. I like Ahsoka overall. I really enjoy her. I like Ashley Eckstein. I like Rosario Dawson. I like the character a lot. And so she's the only part of the story that I'm invested in from the get-go. And once I watched the episodes, I was pretty interested in Morgan Elsbeth and the Dark Jedi, or the kind of Darksiders that show up in the show. I like them a lot. Ray Stevenson, rest in peace. But I really enjoyed the way he portrayed his character. He was stoic, but not necessarily unfeeling, or maybe that's oxymoronic, I'm not sure, but he managed to be serene without being kind of a stone wall. I like that. I thought it was cool. And I liked the kind of ferociousness of his apprentice compared to him. I thought that was a really, really nice balance. And the relationship they had with Morgan Elsbeth was interesting. I really enjoyed the casting of the show. I think everyone looks great. Everyone fits the characters really, really great. However, when it comes to the good guys, to Hera and to Sabine and Ahsoka too, I feel like they were a little bit too dry with their delivery. They kind of talk in a way that feels like they're not interested in being there. It feels a bit too calm and not necessarily emotive enough, but also maybe like they're kind of just phoning it in. I'm not really sure how to explain it, because I don't know what these characters are truly supposed to be like. I know what Ahsoka is supposed to be like, but Ahsoka goes into a very serene kind of feeling later on in the Clone Wars, and then into Rebels after her kind of experiences, right, with with the Order, and she basically becomes the embodiment of a Jedi without being part of the Order, with this serene calmness. But I'm not really sure that Rosario Dawson is being directed, or maybe doesn't have the acting ability necessary to really portray that without feeling monotone or robotic. And I think that is ultimately kind of the issue. That is that she does feel a little bit too neutral, and I really wish that there was a little bit more warmth to her voice. And I think that this is also important for Sabine, who is supposed to be a very emotional character, at least from what I understand, or at least that's how she is portrayed with all of the color that she wears compared to everyone else. Hera, she works. I don't have a problem with her portrayal necessarily, but with the other two characters being so stoic or so quiet, or calm or monotone, whatever you want to call it, neutral, I would have liked her to be less neutral. And when she's interacting with Chopper at the end of the second episode, I think that was really, really good. But it feels kind of unbalanced here, where the bad guys are being really interesting and the good guys feel very neutral, almost to the point of boredom, and that kind of sucks. However, they look great. The show looks great. It feels so high budget and it looks beautiful. And the makeup that they use for both Hera and Ahsoka looks great. I love the choices of the colors. I love how they work. I love that it doesn't look applied. It looks almost like their natural skin tone. And I think that works really, really well. My roommate, who is not really a Star Wars fan, was sitting next to me while I was watching this. And he himself mentioned, hey, this looks amazing. This is like really, really beautiful, but man, it's so slow. Which brings me to the other issue here, which is that I think the pacing of this show is a bit awkward, because there's certain parts, the slow parts, that feel too slow. And then the action-y bits feel too fast. And so there's this kind of whiplash of speed, of kind of pacing or cadence to the show that's pretty odd, that I don't necessarily know why it exists or what it is trying to do or convey. And I don't like it, because usually, like, a very well-paced, structured show will let you go into these peaks and valleys of, fast action versus slow talking. And I think that Andor did that pretty well, even though it is mostly slow talking moments and a lot of tension. But here, none of the dialogue scenes have tension. And then the action scenes are a bit too fast for me to enjoy. Even though they're, like, really fast, they don't feel very kinetic. And also, they're not choreographed the best. So I'll come back to that in a little bit. But the kind of weirdness of the pacing makes it really awkward when you're watching it. It kind of makes you feel like you have high investment really quickly, and then it all plummets. And then you get another little bit of high investment, and then it all plummets. And it feels like a roller coaster, but not in a good way. It doesn't feel enjoyable. It feels kind of like tough to get through. And I really felt that in the first episode. The second episode was less difficult to kind of palate, and I think that it was because it was shorter. But coming back to the choreography here, the fight scenes are fine. They're much better than the sequel series, for sure. They look much, much better. Honestly, I wouldn't even say they look great. However, there's very clear, very stupid moments that bother me a lot. First of all, Sabine deadass punches a robot in the face. I don't care if you're a Jedi, because even Jedi might actually get hurt by that, because they don't have like they don't augment their bodies necessarily. Like, it doesn't become stronger just because they're wearing the Force over it, right? And I think even Obi-Wan punched or kicked Grievous and he got hurt. And Sabine punches it right in the face and doesn't hurt herself at all. She's not wearing gauntlets. She's not wearing her gloves or anything. She's barehanded and she punches it, and it looks cool, but it ultimately should be like something that's stupid that she does and that has consequences, and she didn't have any consequences for that. It was just kind of like, okay, make it work. It looks cool. And if it was a humanoid, it would have worked well, but because it's a droid, it sucks because it's stupid. It doesn't make sense that she wouldn't be in pain, that her hand wouldn't hurt, and honestly, that maybe she would have even broken her hand. But we don't see this happening at all. We don't see this consequence. And then she has this lightsaber fight, which was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Now, I'm not really sure about the likelihood of her being good at it, in the sense that, like, yes, she has training, and I'm pretty sure it was pretty extensive training. But her training was with the Darksaber, which technically accepted her because lightsabers kind of have this like the wand picks the wizard type vibe to them as well. But I'm not sure that Ezra's lightsaber did that with her. And also, even if she does have extensive training and she is a Mandalorian, the other character that she's fighting is a Dark Jedi, or maybe even a Sith character if you really want to, make it clear. And they're very hateful looking. They have this vibe of vileness to them, of darkness to them. So she would be relatively powerful in the Force because of that. And also she would probably be able to move faster, react better, and actually she should have been significantly better than Sabine. And what we saw wasn't necessarily that. It was only like barely better, and barely better enough to harm Sabine by putting a lightsaber through her stomach, and honestly supposedly severely injuring her, but not actually doing any lasting damage, because Sabine is literally up and about in the next episode with what feels like maybe hours between the situation. She gets a hole patched up in her, and she has this kind of new skin growth that looks kind of like it's messed up. But this exact move killed Qui-Gon Jinn. Now you can argue Qui-Gon Jinn got stabbed through the middle of his stomach, and so what killed him wasn't actually the lightsaber, but rather the spinal injury that happens when a beam of light goes through your backbone, right? However, one, that's not ever clearly stated anywhere in the movie, and two, it doesn't matter. The point is that we saw someone stick the sword through his stomach, and then he died, and there was like no difference. Like there was no time to explain that. He just literally up and dies. And Sabine has the same situation happen to her, and honestly, maybe even as badly, but in a different position, because, like Qui-Gon Jinn gets stabbed right in the middle, Sabine gets stabbed to the side, but upwards. And so you would assume that the lightsaber would cut through her diaphragm, her stomach, maybe one of her kidneys, probably some of her ribs, and into her lung, and that is significantly harmful. However, when she is healed, and she doesn't get healed immediately, now all we see is a little tiny hole in her stomach that is covered up and has new skin growth on it. And that is really shitty, because at this point we have like 7 people that have been stabbed through the stomach and only one of them died. And that's some BS. That's inconsistent. That makes it worse, and that makes lightsabers less and less dangerous every time we see them. And that sucks, because they're supposed to be the best weapon in the galaxy. They are the, top tier weapon. That is why the Jedi wield them, because they're difficult to kind of have for anyone else, right? And so that was kind of annoying. The other thing is that there's this fight between Ahsoka and Morak, where Morak does a thing where he spins around, but he's kind of like locked in between Ahsoka's arms while his back is to her, and she has one of her swords behind him, and so she could have just like twisted her sword a little bit and hurt him and killed him, but she didn't, because the movie or the show didn't want him to die yet. And the problem isn't that these things happen, it's that they are noticeable and they don't look good. Like, you could argue that, in the prequels, they do this type of move a lot, where they show their back to their opponent, but there's 2 very important things here. One, the prequel fights are way faster looking. Even if they might be about the same speed, they look faster, they're a little bit more flashier, and they look better, which is pretty important. And 2, the Jedi at the height of their, abilities in the prequels would be able to do these moves and not suffer any consequences. These characters that are lesser, that are not as trained as the Jedi, should not have these opportunities. And so there's another inconsistency that grows here that is really annoying, because you notice it and you notice it and you notice it even more. And it really sucks, because it makes it less threatening. It makes it less difficult. It lowers the stakes a lot if you're someone that notices these things, right? So overall, there you go. Back to some positives here. I really like the music, and I really like the droid design for the show, and I think they all look great. I like the red and black C-3PO characters. I like Hu Yang a lot. I really enjoy him, and the voice is David Tennant, I think. So, there's a Doctor Who reference there just by his voice. And Chopper is really, really fun. I really like his vibe. However, I do want to say that Chopper's noises almost sound like words, like more so than any other kind of a droid of his type. And I'm not really sure that I like that. Because if he's at that point, maybe just give him a fucking like speech pattern thing and let him talk, right? Like that is clearly something that's possible. And if he's so good at emoting that he makes it almost sound like words, might as well let him talk. And if you're not gonna let him talk, maybe don't give him such emotive, almost word-sounding sounds, right? So I don't know. I just don't think that we should get to that point, because then that makes R2-D2 less special. And Chopper, maybe he's older than R2-D2, maybe he has longer time to develop his personality, but R2-D2 is that guy, and you can't make him less just because you want this other character to be cool, right? So, I don't know. I think that he should either be different enough to have that voice box, or just not be able to emote as clearly as he can, because, I don't know, I liked it, I thought it was fun, but it felt a little bit too emotive, too real for what the astromechs are supposed to be like, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a stupid complaint. I don't know. It was something that I noticed. The music, though, awesome. Kevin Kiner does a great job with it. A little bit felt like Phantom Menace. A little bit felt like Anakin's walk into the Jedi Temple. And a lot of it reminded me, actually, of Across the Stars, the beautiful love theme for Anakin and Padme, and I think that applying it to Ahsoka is pretty cool. It works for me. It's not exactly the love theme, but a lot of it feels similar to it, and I think that works because Ahsoka is not necessarily Anakin's daughter, but more like his little sister, but also there is a connection between her and Anakin and her and Padme, and whether you might want to call it love or not, it doesn't really matter. The point is that there is a deep connection, and the love theme, the Across the Stars theme, manages to convey that connection really, really well. So, yeah, overall, I am positive on the show, even though I mostly talk negatives here, because those are more interesting to talk about because, well, they're the ones that that are interesting to me. So, yeah, overall, I would say this is like a 7 out of 10 show, a 7.5 out of 10 show if I really wanted to, mostly because it just looks really, really great. But there are some kind of issues with it. And I do want to mention one other thing. The map. As far as I understand it, Thrawn ended up accidentally going into hyperspace and not knowing where he went. And then Ezra ended up going with him through the Purgo, which are these like hyperspace whales. And they ended up together. As far as I understand it, that means that there's no way to track them. And so why would there be a MacGuffin map? And why would the Night Sisters be the ones that are able to create this or have it? I'm not really sure about that, unless I'm missing something from not having watched Rebels. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Having a MacGuffin that gives you directions is a pretty standard Star Wars thing, but maybe we could have changed that a little bit and not have that here, and it maybe would have worked better. I'm not really sure, but that's kind of the last complaint here, and maybe it's not really even a complaint. It's a question that I think I need answered by someone in the comments, so let me know down below what you think. Let me know what you think about the MacGuffin, and let me know if I'm right or wrong about the situation with Ron. So yeah, overall, those are my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought, and thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.